Okay, we are going to replace the fan now on the Decade 80. I've taken the bag off just so it doesn't get in the way. Drop the handle, and we'll flip it over. Take the cover and the brush roll off, which is already, brush roll's already off. And there's two screws that hold the cover on. One right here, and one on this side. So we'll take those off, and then we can access the motor. Okay, now we have the cover off, so we're going to remove the light bulbs. They're no good anyway, they blew out. And we're going to loosen the screws that hold the two light sockets on. Oh, and look at that. See, this is the exact same thing that happened in the Decade 800. The one light fixture didn't focus. But the light fixture, the mount cracked on it. So we'll set this off to the side, see if we can't glue that back together or something. Okay, tuck those up there so they're out of the way. Now remove this screw right here. And that holds the carpet height indicator on. Just flip that back out of the way. And this little piece of cardboard. Now the Decade 800 didn't have this. So whether that's a common thing or not. Okay, now that's off. Since we're in here, we're going to oil the motor and everything too. So we'll remove these two screws that hold the top bearing plate on. Okay, now once the two remaining screws are out of the top bearing plate, just give it a little wiggle and it should slide right off. Now there's the cooling fan for the motor, and we want to make sure that it's not loose because it threads onto the shaft and it looks to be good. So, oh, there we go. And there's our commutator and brushes. So we can just leave this off for now with the top motor plate. And we now need to remove these four screws here. To get the motor off of the main housing. So I'll do that and we'll be right back. Okay, now those four screws are out. The motor assembly should just lift up out of there. And as you can see, we have our bits of disintegrated fan there. That's pretty much all of it. And a bunch of extra dirt that didn't go up into the bag. So now we've got to get this stub off. Now normally, to loosen it up, you can just put a screwdriver in the fan and remove the end nut, I guess you call it. But since there is no fan, we're going to just try to get it off. Now, this is a reverse thread on here. So to get it off, we need to turn it clockwise, like that. So I'll try to get that off and be back. Okay, we got that loose. So now we'll take it off the rest of the way. And we need to save this little plastic washer here. And now, as long as your motor hasn't overheated and your bearings are still good, that should just slide right off of there. Throw that in the pile. Now there's a small washer and a little sleeve here. We're going to put those off to the side, save them. clean that off a bit. Okay, now that that's all done, check to see if there's any play in the motor shaft, which there is a little bit just because the top half of the motor's off. But there's no play in the bearing. So we're going to flip the motor back over, and we're now going to take the motor apart to oil the bearing. And to do that, there's again 4 screws. One right here, 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 and there. Okay, now that the cover's off, you just let the brushes hang out there. We'll push them back when we put it back together. And there's our commutator, there's the motor coil back here. Now the Hoover motors are actually odd compared to most vacuum motors, that they have the coil, or most brush motors, they have the coil right around the brushes. But the Hoover uses, it's more of a induction style coil with a brushed commutator. And as you can see, we've got it spinning here, and the bearing is good, so we'll just take this out and oil the bearing. But okay, gonna need 2 hands here again. Okay, now that the commutator rotor is out, took a little tapping because it was stuck. There was a little bit of rust on the shaft. There's our main bearing. I cleaned some of the dust out, and we're just going to put 1 or 2 drops of oil on there. Alright, and now we'll put it all back together. Okay, now just real quick before I put the top cover back on and have the brushes on it, you can see, just give it a little spin there, you can see how much difference just a couple drops of oil made. And then we'll put the top cover back on, push the brushes back till they're on the sides of the commutator. And push it down like, whoops. Well, you get the point, but it's easier when you're using 2 hands.